Welcome. We are discussing the politics of inequality, developed and developing world, influence of privatization, globalization, and liberalization. As we know, we have come across the First World War and the Great Depression of 1929. Apart from this, the devastating Second World War has witnessed throughout the globe. We have come across 1970s oil crisis. Then we are coming to the age of liberalization. It has gaining the ground from UK, then USA, and India has taken up, and many more countries following the path of liberalization, privatization, and globalization. The thing is, after liberalization and globalization and privatization, what will be the effect on the economy throughout the globe? Whether the gap between the first world and the third world has wider, or within the same country, the gap between the rich and the poor are wider or shorter, that is our survey. Now, we call the World War situation, you can say the COVID 2019 situation, the situation has been very much aggressive in case of the poverty, and the highest hit people, they are basically deprived from the situation. And later on, we found the Sri Lanka and many more countries, they are following the path of Sri Lanka. There are about 55 countries. Now, the question is, who will bail the cat? The answer is blow in the wind. As we know, it is Bob Dylan's the very word. Now we are considering the poverty and inequality. How can we judge the inequality? Because there is a gap between the gallop difference between the rich and the poor. The poverty line is there, we call the BPL line, and there are so many parameters are there, inefficiency in the income. These are by far the situation within the ethnic group and inequality within the people of a country and throughout the globe. Now we are considering, for judging this, two very important aspects are to be considered. One is Lorentz curve, Max O. Lorentz. He propagated this in horizontal axis. We consider the percentile of the population, and the vertical axis we consider the wealth and the income cumulative form. Now, if someone be closer the Lorentz curve, the difference is rather very shorter, and if it is far away from the Lorentz curve, it is said the inequality strongly prevail within that particular country. Now, second initiative we have taken from the Gini coefficient. By way of that, we have 0 and 1. If we consider 0, the perfect, that is no inequality, and if we consider that it is 1, then it will call the Gallup inequality. Now we consider another parameter, poverty gap ratio. It is nothing but the ratio between the sum of the poverty line minus the consumption of the poor divided by the population multiplied the consumption of the poverty line. Now, these are the situation we have in a situation when we find that first 10% people, they are very much rich, and the last 10% people, they are very much poor. And when we consider decile dispersion ratio, then we consider this parameter also. Now the question is, the globalization will make our societies more creative and prosperous, but also more vulnerable. The situation is that if we consider the global or globe is a hub, then your trade barrier that has been erased and it flows from the rich country to the poor country. In other way, the liberalization and privatization stress much on private investment rather than public investment. Then considering the situation, the developed country, they are technologically very sound and they have diversified service sector. You can say the USA, Germany, UK, Italy, France, they are the country. And among them, the top on the list is USA with its more than $20 trillion economy. Now we consider the developing country, they are technologically not so sound, their GDP are not so high, and in this group we called the China, India along with the other countries. And China alone, after the following the path of liberalization from their socialist path, which is called the market socialism, their GDP now crossed the benchmark of $14 trillion. Now, we consider after liberalization, following the path, considered right from 1980, more than 800 million people of China, they are out of poverty. And India, right from 1991, within this space, we find near about 273 million people, they are out of poverty. Now, throughout the globe, more than 1 billion population, they are out of this poverty line. And when we consider previously, we have an idea the poverty line means per man per dollar per day. Now we consider it will be $1.9 per man per day. Considering these facts, we have come across so many situations and we found that near about 1.9 million people additionally just submerged into this poverty area or zone after the COVID situation. If we consider the last 30 years, what is not happening, that most of the people, they are coming out from the poverty. 85% of the world population, cannot able to earn near about $30 per day. And 2/3 of the population, they cannot earn $10 per day. And 1/10 of the population, they are unable to touch the benchmark of $1.9 per day. Considering this, all the situations, even if after liberalization and the structural change that has been made in every economy, we found the sizable number of population, they are out of the poverty line because of this exercise. And it is happened after 1820, this situation. At that time, the more than half of the population, they are unable to earn a sizable amount for their livelihood. If we consider the 30 years, right from before 1991, India's per capita income was merely $85. And it goes up to the level of, you can say, $303 up in the year of 1991. It is almost 3.5 times more, and it took near about 3 decades. But after liberalization, if we consider that these per capita income comes up to the level of from $303 to $2,277, near about a jump of 7.5 times in the post-liberalization period of over 30 years. Therefore, liberalization has made some sort of problem. As the IMF made a study, rich become richer, poor become poorer, but in spite of that, the many peoples are being benefited within this period. Now we consider the poor and the rich. You see, the rich people acquire assets, but the poor and the middle class, they have the liability, although they feel they have the asset. And you, from the picture, you can see in case of the poor people, the baggage on their back, and they have to carry, and it is an overburden for the poor people. But the rich people, they have the belly, they have to carry that, and with this belly, they are also able to carry some sort of medical problem. Therefore, the rich and the poor, their dimension is quite different, but they are fighting with each other. Even in USA, I can tell you, the top 1% people, their earnings is near about 40 times more of the bottom people. Then this is a numerous things. And even though we can say the liberalization or post-liberalization period, what's happened? The number of poor people become lower. What's happened? The middle class that has been eroded, and the emerging, the new elite class that are coming in the dimension in the post-liberalization period. And if we consider the share of the world GDP, we found that the share of the world GDP, the developing country share going up and the developed country share going down. And in spite of everything, the inefficiency or the difference, what we can say, that it is lesser in the European country rather than other countries. The rich and the poor, there is a difference, but within the world cake, the contribution of the developing country is much, much better than the developed country. Therefore, as a whole, the developed country, they are not being benefited from this situation. Therefore, we have to consider it is a town, I am pick and choose, that the poor and the people, they are residing at slum, and the rich people, they are residing at the high rise. It is often Rio de Janeiro of Brazil, the post-liberalization period, that these things is mostly happen in all parts of the world. Even in Calcutta, Mumbai, Delhi, you found the contrast of the rich and the poor that has been happening today's situation. In the post-liberalization period, as we know, more people coming out of poverty. It is true, but the pandemic situation or COVID-19 has changed the situation, and the heavily weak and the poor people, we found 9.7 million people they are again fall into deep mess. Why it's happened? Because in the pandemic period, the purchasing power of the poor people have fallen and many people lose their job. This is a massive problem, and by 2030, we have to just drive out near about 600 million people out of poverty. And for this, what to do? There is a vicious circle, and we have to break through the vicious cycle. The equilibrium in the down, not equilibrium has to be made in the top. And for the purpose of overcoming this problem of inequality, the fiscal policy of any country has to be adjusted. And you can say the inclusive growth, that principle has to be followed. The sustainable economic development is the next path. And if we follow the sustainable economic development, that is not by hampering the nature, the development that took place. What's happened in the advanced country, they are just destroying the environment for the cost, for the purpose of their profit. And it is not the sustainable development. And in that case, the poor people are highly affected. Therefore, sustainable development principle be followed. The poor people, the income generation of the poor people is the need of the hour, and the adjustment of the fiscal policy is needed so that the many more people will come out from poverty, and then we can see K. Prahlad, one of the management guru, he remind us below the pyramid, those people reside below the pyramid, they are the future customer of any multinational corporations. Therefore, if you neglect these people, poor people, the economic inequality developed, and that may cause political instability, and cost of the politics will be more. The preferably paychecks of the USA, the very poor people, the jobless people, they are getting some sort of benefit, but their disparity of the rich and the poor is very, very high. But another parameter we can say, the Human Development Index. If the country or their difference is so high, these countries, Norway, Denmark, Sweden, Switzerland, their Human Development Index is very good, compared to even USA. But your two countries, we can say the India and the China, they are the highest gainer from the liberalization. In spite of that, the income inequality still prevail. In the Human Development Index, we are not in a very good position. Although the population of these two countries near about more than 250 crores and more, then with this is a very 1/3 of the population of the globe reside here, and a sizable number of people, they are still poor, and the path has to be followed that although the India is a position of the 5th position in the economy, and in terms of the purchasing power parity, our position is 3rd, but we don't forget near about 10 crores of the Indians go to bed without food. But needless to say, another good feature for India, near about 44 poor people out of poverty in every minute. That is a very good gesture for India. And I feel the adjustment of the policy and the policy makers, they have to think over the matter so that the impact of globalization will be more, and the wider difference of the rich and the poor be minimized to some extent. And in the COVID situation, the last 25 years, we can say 90 to 2015, the extreme poverty rate dropped on an average nearly 36% to 10%. Yes, it is true, but at the same time, it is also true that COVID has changed the scenario, and we have to pay more to overcome this. And the World Bank, the IMF, and every country, they have to think over the matter. But Harvey Levinstein, he said the underdeveloped country, they have the characteristics of existence of an vicious circle of poverty, and a few states they have taken to break this vicious circle, so that the critical measure have to be taken to overcome the situation. Now we can tell you the GDP in a higher space right from 1991, the GDP of India and of China and other developing countries will grow very fast. And the per capita income also mount very quickly. But it is say it's an average. An average never gives you the real picture. The difference in the Lorenz curve and our position is far away from the proportion of the percentile of population and the wealth and the income. The diagram line, we are far away from that. Rather, Sweden, Switzerland is very closer. Therefore, the two countries, they have taken the liberalization path, but the inclusive, without inclusive growth, you can't develop yourself, or you can't on the rat race until and unless the big number of poor people still prevail within your country. Then income equality is typically higher in this country, and some sort of education, the technological knowledge that will provide, or improvement of the human capital is the need of the hour. And in that respect, the new education policy that has been designed so that the income generation through education that is possible, and the poor people will come out from this mess situation. And if that's happened, the minimization of the risk and the proclamation and upliftment of the poor throughout the globe, that is the dream of the World Bank and the IMF, and that will be the agenda for every nation. And even in the political spectrum, the poverty cannot be used as a card. It can be used for the upliftment of these people. The positive political attitude will change the scenario along with the worldwide policy. So every government, they have to adjust their fiscal policy accordingly. Some sort of parameters like the assurance or group insurance, some sort of medical facility, some sort of free education, and at the same time the minimum wage guarantee that will change the situation, and world always welcome this. Then poverty cannot be the main dimension of politics, rather than eradication of the poverty is the ultimate task of the political party, of the nation, and the World Bank and the IMF. World has divided in three parts. One is developed world, another is developing world, and another is third world. The problem of three world is quite different. It is true, the per capita income of the rich countries or advanced countries is much higher than that of the developing and underdeveloped country. But in terms of the global politics and economic, if we consider, it cannot be so that developed country and developing country always just give a command on the underdeveloped country. Then if this will happen, the world peace will be hampered, because the poverty that driven them from out of the system, and they are either just acted as the Ghana and Ethiopia, and there is a huge conflict within the ethnic group, and violence is going on. The world is facing the war because of this inequality. Then world inequality has to be restored by the World Bank and the IMF. They are monitoring, but every country, that can be the notion, the welfare system should be developed, and with the help of the welfare system, the rich people and the gap between the rich and the poor be shorter, and it may be very closer, so that the peace and harmony and tranquility will prevail in every country. The world will restore the peace without just erasing this inequality. The ultimate peace cannot be derived by the people, by the nation, and by the globe.